Welcome to Season 3 of Malevolent Autopsy. I'm your host, Queen. I use she, her pronouns, and I am so excited to be here with you all. Now, let me warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent as of the day this episode is published, so if you're not caught up, I am not liable. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to ask my lovely co-host, what part of Arthur's body are you betting on getting injured this week?
Howdy, hello, Vol Control here, he, him pronouns, and this week I'm betting on Arthur's decision-making skills getting injured this week, because boy howdy, the voices in his head have been fucking rabid this week.
Oh my god, it's been such a good time.
Queen has been in her strongest form this week.
Oh my god, I have been active like nobody's business in those coal mines again. It feels good to be back, right at the perfect time. But before we jump into all that, can you sum up what we just heard for the public?
To sum up chapter 298 for the public, we start this chapter by hitting the ground running with the decision to run. We've got miles to go. The portal brings Arthur and John back to where it all began, 13 Mosby Avenue. But there's something rotten in Arkham. The sky is red, the obelisk is here, and it's not long at all before Kane joins the party in his stunning apocalypse suit, replete with wings made of Arthur's. Dashing. Kane wants to show off his rock collection, and for John and Arthur to really understand the stakes here, and maybe even them out a little bit. There's no save point for Arthur anymore, but John could still return to the Dreamlands. No trip to the Dreamlands necessary, though. Kane brings the king right there to Mosby Avenue and plays hot potato with the Blackstone. The king in yellow becomes the king in red, and Kane presents us with a choice. Send him away to die in dignity on his throne, or kill him now with a gun.
Oh man, okay, we'll talk about the gun because I know that's gonna come up later. Okay, so Malevolent season 6 is almost over. This is chapter 298 of 300.
We are in the last 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. Apparently the last, so I mean, inside baseball a little bit. Well, you know what? It won't matter for the public since it's going to be out. It's going to be done by the time this releases. Oh my god. The story of Malevolent is already over. Harlan has written the end and he's recorded both options for the very last poll and everything. So Malevolent is over for Harlan right now. He just has to release corresponding chapters for us. And
which we know because he's going on vacation, so he's not going to be writing and recording on the road, so to speak.
Yeah, so kind of like with the Horig vote, if any of you were around for that, he pre-records things and then glances at the poll the day that, the episode's ready to publish, and he posts the right chapter according to whatever choice we had. So it's like a scheduled thing rather than him looking at the poll and then going in and recording based on what we vote. He kind of has to do both options in advance. So it's a little extra pre-work for him, but he is going to be on a cruise, so he's not even going to be in the country.
Yeah.
when it all ends.
Which also means that even the patrons are going to have 2 weeks between next chapter and the end of Malevolent, and I'm already shaking in my boots about what those 2 weeks are going to be like.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we are going to have 2 full weeks of just debating a vote, which there have been hints in Malevolent itself that we might have to get to 100%, which if you've been following Autopsy for any length of time, will be a massive challenge. With over 500 voters, we'd need at least, I think, 500 to vote all the same way for Patreon to successfully display 100%. So we'll see if that's really the case. We won't know.
I can't wait to try at the very least.
Yes, it's all about the journey, right?
Yeah.
So with all that being said, man, this chapter was intense.
Fucking epic. There's no other way to describe it. It was so Oh, the gravitas of this episode was just so good. And I was just obsessed with the timing of all of the stings and the sound effects from the
Yeah.
the background music. Oh, the soundtrack, the musical framing was just insane. Insane.
John's description and the language that was used was gorgeous. I thought it was really harkened back to some of the elaborate descriptions we got in seasons 1 and 2.
Yes. And speaking of the beautiful descriptions, we have returned to, or maybe even have only finally reached at this finale, the classic indescribable horrors. John literally says, I can't describe it to you, after like struggling to even look at it and warning Arthur, like, I don't think you could witness this without going mad. And I was so excited that we really hit that indescribable cosmic horror moment.
Yes, that's actually my favorite thing, because I've always really logicked out Arthur's need to be blind in this podcast as humans cannot perceive the eldritch horrors, the monstrosities. Right. And so really there's a really significant point at which I don't think Arthur could continue to be sane in the podcast if he did have his vision. To me, it's always been really satisfying to think of it that way. But for John to say it outright was very satisfying for me. I like that.
Yeah. For even John, who is an eldritch being, to reach the point where he has become so much in tune with humanity and a certain kind of reality at this point, that when he brushes up against those horrors again, he can't take it, you know?
Yeah, I loved it. It was very ominous hearing what amounts to an eldritch god tell us that it was horrible. Like, oh man, like that's creepy. When it's kind of like when, oh, this is kind of sad, but that's the only thing I could think of. When I first saw my mom cry, I was like, oh my God, something's really wrong.
Right.
Like my mom doesn't cry, you know, like when a figure of authority or power breaks down, it really reminds you how dire and serious things are.
Oh God. I mean, the fact that John was like, don't open your eyes. Like he was like a childlike scaredness almost. Ugh.
John was going through it in this chapter. He really sounds so shaken up from the minute they get back to Arkham. He sounds almost overwhelmed immediately.
Well, I think that the effect of the obelisk is really fucking with him, and some people mentioned that in some of the voice submissions that we got, and I definitely feel like he is very shaken by not only the obelisk, but watching the king get corrupted. Yeah, that's not great for his sanity.
Bummer. Big fucking bummer.
Big bummer, dude.
It just sucks. Like, what you gonna do? I mean, some of us have to hold our drowning baby. Some of us have to watch our other half get corrupted.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah, that kind of leads well into my carrot for this week, which kind of hard to have a carrot that isn't related to the terrible fate about to befall our little guys. But my favorite part this week was all of the scene setting, which we've been talking about, but specifically it feels like bringing back all of those elements that are so classic Malevolent, but like turning it up to 11, kind of like in like animated shows when you get to like the finale of a season and the animation gets like crisper and smoother and they're using more frames and so it looks just fucking incredible. It feels like this is HD Malevolent finale, and I'm so pumped. I'm so happy with how the finale's been rolling out.
Me too. I do feel like as we get closer to the end, I don't want to say there's been more time or effort spent on it, but I do want to say that it is so obvious to me that this part was planned out.
Oh, like, for sure.
In a really good way, in a way where you're like, oh, this is what all of the infrastructure has been leading up to, and it feels very, very whole and built and scripted in a good way.
Yes. But like it doesn't feel stale at all. Like it doesn't feel like he's been sitting on this, and some parts weren't, he didn't want to change. They weren't, negotiable.
It doesn't feel like he's gotten overly attached to his idea of the finale
No.
and has therefore left in things that don't belong there. He
Right.
really seems to have fully, like, walked us through the right path to get to this part.
Right.
It's just very well done.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Also, I just have to shout out one line that I loved, because it's usually one of my carrots is just a line of dialogue that's just perfect. And this week I loved, "I think you can manage to make out my winning smile." Oh man, that was such a chilling, like adrenaline inducing line and delivery. So fucking good.
Kane's deliveries went so hard.
Oh yeah.
Like the screaming, "Oh, Artie." It was
Yes.
so good. That will be one of those small, short, difficult to contextualize Kane lines that I think everybody and their mom will be screaming at each other in person.
The vocal stem. The vocal stem will go so hard.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think everybody has a Kane vocal stem or a Kane line that they think of and that gets triggered in their brain. At least one. I have multiple, but especially that "Oh, Artie" and the way that it was delivered. I could feel, I don't know if it was a panning impact or what, but I felt him above me.
Yes.
Like I felt him up in the clouds. It was so good.
Yeah. And I do want to mention something that I really liked, but you had mentioned it at first when we first listened to the episode. The fucking distortion on Kane's voice in this part is so good. So cool. It really gives you that feeling that he is, like, it finally is like he is in an eldritch form. Like he is dropping some of the human skin suit almost.
Well, we've encountered so few gods in more monstrous forms that it's really easy for me to forget that Kane, not that he's a god, because that's very prominent, but he takes a human guise with such consistent, almost effect, the way he's kind of stressing his humanity, the guise of humanity, that it's very easy for me to forget that he is not just capable of taking on a greater form, but that he truly is just doing this for fun. Like that is a Halloween costume for him. That is not how he normally looks.
Right. Because he wishes to appear human. Pie mentions quotes in the chat. Yeah. And I'm with all of the fan artists, and there are so many incredible artists who are so talented and have done fan art of with some more inspiration from sort of the classic Nyarlathotep and the crawling chaos idea. And oh man, there's so many good Monster Kane arts out there, and there's gonna be so much more when this part goes public. Already, I've seen I think 4 or 5 pieces of fan art from the chapter that dropped this week. It is Saturday night, and there's already, very far along or outright finished pieces of fan art of this moment, and it's so rad.
There were people that had already drawn Kane and his amazing Arthur wings hours after the chapter dropped.
Yeah.
It was intense how quickly people jumped on that. And I love it. I'm so excited.
And I think that's a testament to how inspiring this part was. And I don't have to fucking explain that to the public. You've heard it by now. You know how cool it is. But yeah, the reaction when it dropped was absolutely rabid.
Hey, the public knows how Malevolent ends right now. We don't.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's really wild to zoom out and think about the fact that all this is being said after it's over.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm probably not the same person.
You're right. Yeah. My brain chemistry is definitely different to, in the future when this is published, for sure. So, Queen, what was your carrot this week?
Oh, my carrot. I'm so glad you asked, Because my carrot is just that Arthur has yellow eyes.
It's canon.
I'm so happy it's canon.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I assume that's implied because John has his eyes. I don't think that's like Arthur's natural eye color.
Right.
But I love that it's become canon.
I think that's so rad.
I think I'll take the stage because it is relevant to say I do not think that canon makes something better. I don't. In fact, I would argue that so much of the time I'm happy that what I like isn't canon because I want to do what I want to do with it and I don't want the show to touch it. But I loved that we are getting a few very small details of the appearance being canon. I think I love what it represents because you go the entire series of Malevolent with almost no canon details as to how Arthur or John look.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, you get these little alterations or these little tiny canon snippets of what they look like. And I love that for the majority of the podcast, you get to imagine them however you want. But for those who want to take into consideration what might be canon,
what Harlan might be picturing.
Right. It's kind of, it feels very much optional in the way that I want it to be because it doesn't really matter what anybody looks like in the podcast. That's not the point.
It's an audio format. Yeah.
It is. And it's also not about what it would be different if the audio drama had a brief focus on somebody having a body image issue or if how they looked was integral to their journey, but it's not, and it never has been, and so I don't feel the need to know what everything is defined as in canon, and I also don't feel the need to stick to what I do know. Like, if I decide that John does have a face, actually, I don't feel like giving him a face is no longer valid because it's not canon, right? I think it's just kind of an optional fun detail and a way to kind of get everybody on the same page if they want to be.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah. And yeah, this felt like the canonization of the yellow eyes felt like an Easter egg more than a hard and fast rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But that being said, Vol, what was your stick?
Oh. Kane pulled out a fucking gun? That took me out. That was so fucking funny. The idea that this eldritch god is going to is threatening to kill another eldritch god, and you hear the sounds of a gun.
Yellow's haunted. What? Yellow's haunted. Like it's the big joke that everybody makes in the medieval fantasy series and like the big amazing blowout series where if the character just had a gun, this would all be over very quickly.
Right.
And Kane's like, bet. I got it. I'm locked.
So I know that's kind of a funny stick because it's more like something that really made me laugh, but I mean, it's somehow both hilarious and menacing. For some reason, the idea of Kane with a gun is both so silly and so threatening.
Oh my god.
Only Kane Malevolent could be silly and threatening, honestly.
Only Kane Malevolent. I saw people saying that Kane's gun was going to fire off one of those flags that just says pew or something like that. Yes. I saw people saying it was a water gun. I saw people saying, like, arguing about what type of gun it was. Some people said it was a revolver. Some people said it was a shotgun. I thought it would be hilarious if it were a Glock.
Yes, absolutely. I'm picturing a Glock. That is 100% what I'm picturing. Probably not even from the era, like not even from 1934. No. It's like definitely from the 90s or something.
Absolutely. It is a gun out of time. I love it. I want it. I want to see. Okay. Yeah. Kane with the Arthur wings. It's gruesome and scary and cool. Where is the Kane gun art?
Yes.
Where is it? I
Get in
need
the
Kane with a
comments.
gun.
Show us the Kane gun art. I need to see
Feel
it.
free to tag me on Discord in any art of Kane holding a gun ever, forever, for the end of time. Because that is truly, like, top tier moments in this podcast.
Right, because I was gonna say, like, the image on its own is like, okay, whatever, like, that's sure. It's almost so ridiculous to imagine Kane seriously wielding a gun, but the fact that it's canon makes
Oh,
it
yeah.
incredible. This is one of those
Yeah.
things where by making this canon, you've changed the framing of that idea.
Yep. And I love that Harlan really says, I want a full musical number in my podcast. I'm going to put a full musical number in my podcast.
Yeah.
I want my antagonist to have a fucking gun.
He's gonna
have a fucking gun. So fucking good.
Fish in the chat says his Desert Eagle. Yes, a ridiculous, oversized fucking gun. Incredible.
Good Lord. And like the fact that we've seen Kane do things without even needing to lift a finger. We don't even know if blowing up heads is a gesture or a blink or just the power of his brain.
Yeah.
And yet he's like, do you want me to kill Yellow? Yes or no? Points a gun for fucking fun. That's so good.
Literally directly after summoning the King in fucking Yellow to the material plane as if it was nothing and confirming it was nothing. Then instead of some dramatic like some simple gesture where he just he's like about to snap his fingers. That would be threatening enough. But
Fractals says, funny option. He doesn't have a gun. He's just making a gun noise with his mouth.
Oh, man.
I hope someday somebody asks Harlan, like, what made you want to put a gun in this man's hand for this scene specifically?
Save that for the season 6 post-season discussion. Save that for the Q&A.
Because we get to submit questions for the InvictusCon Q&A. Ren holds the discussion for the post-season interview.
Right. You're right.
So
you're
Ren,
right.
okay, so everyone has to get Ren really into guns for no reason at all. So that they're on their mind when they go to ask Harlan questions.
Yes, exactly.
You have to do subliminal messaging. Okay, all right.
What was your stick this week, Queen?
Oh, my stick was no big deal. It was just Arthur and John saying, no matter the cost.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like what that says.
They've been preparing to die for a while now, for pretty much all of this season, and they were already dead during most of this season, but they were preparing to die again.
It's upsetting when characters are so ready to die because that tells me they're truly in danger of dying.
Yeah, and that they are at peace with that. They know that they have to do what needs to be done.
I don't like it. So that's it. That's my stick, is just the fact that sure sounds ominous.
Yeah.
That's suspicious.
I
don't like that.
I'm just going to throw out my little contrarian brain, my little grackle theory that maybe all of this, like, preparing to sacrifice it all, blah, 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 is all being set up so that Harlan can subvert that in the end, and they won't die.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him.
I'm putting some delusions out into the world for the live listeners here in the autopsy chat to give them some kind of hope before we know their ultimate fate.
Yeah, public listeners who are hearing this in the future after it's all over already, how funny do we sound right now?
I know.
Comment on Spotify if that's where you're listening, because you can put comments in there. Tell me what a goof ass we sound like.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, let's get into the poll.
Let's do it.
My favorite part. So I'm going to start with just reading out the poll for this week, which is Kill the King versus Send Him Home. Right now it is Saturday night, and we in the spot don't believe me. Just watch. The option for Kill the King has 44%, and Send Him Home has 56%, 515 votes total, so it's pretty close to done. And it has been fucking relentless. I
Yeah.
think for a couple of days, like a day and a half, we were constantly going back and forth between a tie.
It was just like the season 5 finale, the last couple of votes in season 5.
Man, it was intense. Has been intense. It just settled down like last night.
I did put some fun poll stats in our notes, if because we talked about some of the interesting data. Kara, shout out to you for collecting data. I just did a quick little search of my own for this data during the season 5 finale. It was so crazy. The ties, the flipping back and forth was so insane. The passionate debates were so crazy that we had to look up how many messages, how many comments have been made on the Discord server and on Patreon.
So it says here that there were 6,680 messages sent in poll chat since the chapter dropped. That's 211 messages in the slow poll, which has a 10-minute timer and is more utilized for like longer debates and things that people want to save. And there are right now 256 comments on the poll on Patreon, the actual physical like posting of the poll. But I also want to say that 298s, because sometimes, so people will comment on the chapter for what they're voting before
Oh,
the poll
yeah.
even drops. And I
Yeah.
will say that it was also a live drop, as the last few chapters have been. So there are 498
Oh
comments
my god.
on chapter 298's
Well,
posting.
part of that is I noticed during this live drop that some people are live blogging in the
Yes,
comments,
yes.
but still, over 400 comments is crazy. That's
Almost
crazy.
500 comments. Yeah.
Wow,
Pretty
that's
fucking crazy.
incredible.
So lots and lots of activity. Before we go into each of our arguments and then voice subs, Vol, how are you voting? Just to tell me like what you're voting. I'll say what I'm voting and then we'll go into arguments.
I am voting Mercy Kill.
And I am voting to send him home.
Interesting.
So why are you voting to kill the king? Just briefly, I know that a lot of our voice subs are going to be about the poll, but I'd like to hash it out just us.
My instinct was that no good will come of sending the king back to the Dreamlands and destroying all that he and John had rebuilt there, and all of the collateral damage. And I also think that killing the king is the merciful thing to do, so that he doesn't act out actions that are not really aligned with who he wants to be. But my strongest argument, the most strong voice in my head, is I want to see Kane use a gun.
God, I hate you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yep, that's my argument.
Man. You fucking meme.
Okay. I'll come clean and say that I have been compelled by a lot of the arguments for send him home. And so part of the reason that I am still on Kill the King is literally for the bit. Because the percentage has gotten wide enough that I feel like it's gonna stay in favor of
Yeah.
send him home.
I am voting send him home because the funny thing is being able to I was on Kill the King very, very firmly for the first day of the poll.
Yes.
And then I flipped. So the problem is I keep wanting to give my arguments for send him home, and I am immediately thinking of the counter argument I'm going to get and trying to get ahead of it, which
Right.
which is just how it is to live in my brain, is arguing with myself.
Yes. You never get a debate started that way, though.
Right. I could just sit here in dead silence. So I'm voting send him home because I think that, among many reasons, I think that John is unstable right now in a
Mm-hmm.
way that we have not seen in a long time, maybe ever. And
Yes.
hearing Arthur agree to kill the king, it might put him in a mindset similar to the one he was facing when he was trying to punish himself in the form of punishing
Yeah.
Larson.
Yeah.
And I really don't want John to see Arthur make that decision. I also think that I was really originally blinded by my concern for the quote unquote greater good when I was voting Kill the King. A lot of my motivation was you don't let somebody run rampant to hurt others. Once their actions are starting to threaten other people, you have to do the hard thing and put them down
Right.
like a
You
zombie.
want to minimize the damage.
Yes.
And I think that the other thing that we really had strongly in our mind at the beginning of the week when when the vote first, well, when the chapter first dropped, was that we, as we understand it thus far, Grinnerdom cannot be cured. There is no cure, and so prolonging the king's life and allowing him to act out, you know, his terrible hungry will in this Grinner state. Why would we do that? Because there's no hope for saving him, unfortunately, as far as based on the knowledge that we have at current.
Yeah, there was some debate and some tension around the idea that maybe you did have to know more about Grinners than you might have otherwise if you only listen to Malevolent, because quick catch up for everybody here if you are new. Malevolent's original idea was based on a Call of Cthulhu campaign that Harlan was involved in, and he just decided to extend the campaign into his own audio drama. And this is the story of the Blackstone. And so you can go on YouTube and watch the original games that this campaign, you know, this whole thing was based on basically. And there is some relevant lore, some interesting Easter eggs that are dropped, especially in seasons 1 and 2, before he realized he was going to draw this out bigger and go longer with it. Those things have gotten, they were less in the middle of the series between 3 and 4. And then they picked back up in 5 and 6, where we do get some more callbacks to the original games. Part of those games was lore about Grinners. Now, we do have lore in Malevolent that is exclusive to Malevolent, like you don't have to have heard anything else, that does tell us how powerful Grinners are, how all-consuming they are. They don't, I will say, the dialogue does not hold your hand and say there is no cure for being a Grinner,
Right, right.
but that is heavily implied based on the snippets that we have gotten, in addition to the fact that, like, there's some cut off sentences Lilith was saying about being the last Nyarlathotep and how that changed things. There's a good amount of evidence to suggest that Grinners are very serious and permanent. So all of that being said, there was some debate over, you know, sending him home might be the best chance we have of quote unquote saving him.
Right.
People would rather send him home and have a chance at seeing him later on and potentially finding a cure or rehabilitating or whatever, rather than killing him right now and putting out any idea that we'll ever see him again in any kind of media because he's just dead. That did not compel me. I'm still voting send him home, but that was not really part of my reasoning. I will say that, like, Kill the King had me on the basis of kind of mitigating the most harm. However, once I stepped back, and part of what really flipped me was the fact that it's not really, it doesn't, the outcome is so, Yellow and Grinners are kind of super irrelevant now that I'm looking at this
Okay.
further back. Like,
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but like, if you really believe that Grinnerdom is permanent and you don't feel like, I don't feel like, you know, sending him home is gonna give us a chance at saving him, you have to just kind of know he's gone already and we're not getting him back, whether he's Grinnerd or he's dead. The other thing is that Kane's probably going to kill him no matter what, when has Kane almost ever respected a poll choice?
Right, right.
The poll is, I mean, we are really making a decision for the characters that we embody right now, and they have no control over what happens next. Neither do we. And this decision is very much reflective of what that says about what their choice says about them and how it's going to be positioned, as well as kind of trying to play 3D chess a little bit with like, why is Kane asking this?
Right,
Why
right.
is he
Yeah.
doing this?
I think that that is an important framing and context to consider rather than having the gut reaction of like what is the best for the greater good. It's important to sort of like you said, step back and look at the vote and realize that it's not just the question. It's who is asking the question.
Yeah.
He's using yellow, he's using the king as a pawn, as a playing piece to manipulate Arthur and John and affect their mental state. And we also have to consider Arthur's frame of mind and intention in making this decision. And I think that those are all important factors to consider in how you vote. And that's why I am leaning more towards send him home being the better option.
Yeah, I even from the beginning though, when I was on Kill the King, I was so bothered by why Kane is asking why this matters, why Arthur's not just dead again yet. Like
Right,
I
right.
just am so bewildered by the idea that Kane wants Arthur alive so bad to see this that he's willing to dismiss the very real potential that Arthur could stop him, because Arthur said that to him point blank over and over again. And I understand that Kane doesn't believe that, but I'm shocked that because he's smart. If you're Look, if I was plotting to like end the world, even though I don't think the hero can stop me, I'd still kill his ass. I'm not going
Yeah,
to take any risks.
yeah,
I
but don't. But
it's the equivalent of like when in Frozen, when Hans gives his big old I'm the villain speech and he doesn't kiss Anna, and then he's like, I'm going to leave the room before you fully die. Dude,
right,
just stay
right.
there for like 10 minutes. Chill. She'd be dead in like a minute if you just stayed. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, why is Kane not killing him? He's smarter than that.
But Kane wants an audience.
I guess. I guess. Am I not enough for you, Kane? Am
No,
I not audience enough?
no, it's got to be him. It's got to be Arthur.
Had to be you. Okay. All right. Well, I've talked a lot. I could keep talking, but I won't. We have so many things to cover, and we are 10 minutes from our hour mark. So, all right. Well, to give the people a break from my voice, why don't you start with our first submission, which is an email?
Alrighty, I will do that. So, our first submission is an email. It comes from Fractals. And A says, hello, Autopsy. It's Fractals. AM and its pronouns. Not every story has a happy ending, and whichever choice we make, Yellow's story ends in tragedy. Yellow, as we know him, is gone, and now we are left with one final choice that further strips him of his agency. A tragically poetic end to a character who has spent his whole existence defined by others' choices. He wasn't given a chance by Arthur, but more importantly, he was used as a tool by Kane. Is still being used as that tool by Kane. Something to illustrate his point with, something to threaten John and Arthur with. A tool. Kane created him, and now Kane has destroyed him, ripped away all of the meaning he had created for himself, all of the progress he had made. He tried and struggled and failed and grew, and was it worth having lived a difficult and painful life than to have never lived at all? All he wanted was to be himself and to get to choose, and even in his death, that's the one thing he hasn't gotten. So the only question that really matters to me is, what would Yellow want? Farewell.
Thank you for your submission, Fractals. Very, very sweet. I love that.
I think I think that was a beautiful eulogy for Yellow, which was
Yeah.
part of the reason I
Oh,
put it right up at the top, because we have got a lot of submissions of people who have a lot of feelings about Yellow and his journey and his circumstances. And so I thought best to start that off with a really lovely kind of eulogy for the tragedy of Yellow's existence.
Fractals wants to add that they're voting for Kill the King, if that's not clear.
Oh, interesting. There were a couple of submissions where, so Fractals didn't outline what A was voting for, but there was another submission where by the end of it, I was like, wait, but what are you voting for? I'm so, like, your arguments could be used for either one. And that's what it always comes down to with these really passionate, really close to tying votes, honestly.
Yeah, I have to say, I love the potential of Yellow. It is, I think, many people's favorite tragedy in Malevolent. The big nature versus nurture icon, the unsung, I don't even want to say like antagonist, but like he truly got a shit end of the stick and everyone knew it. I will say Yellow was also a huge asshole. Please go
Sure.
re-listen to season 4 if you have not in a while, because holy shit, dude pisses me off. But he
Do you mean the beginning
genuinely
of
like,
season 3 or do you mean season
yes,
4?
sorry, the beginning
Yeah.
of season 3. And like Arthur was terrible too. They were
Yes.
both miserable together. They truly deserved each other.
I'm gonna be frank. Beginning of season 3 almost made me stop listening to Malevolent because
Yeah.
it was so miserable to be back in that low place where they were just at each other's throats. It was a really, really hard listen for my
Yeah.
first time through. I can so appreciate it now in greater context, and it felt like John was gone forever in season 3, but
Yeah.
it's only
Yeah.
like 3 episodes, maybe. It's
It's
really not
barely.
that
Yeah.
long.
It's really not that long, but when you're listening for the first time, it feels agonizing. It feels like half the season without John.
Yes,
It's wild.
absolutely, absolutely.
The other thing is that Yellow was so, I was so excited at first to get a reversal of Arthur knowing everything and quote unquote John having to start fresh. Like I really
Hmm.
liked that at first. I
Yes,
think the moment in the bathtub where Arthur admits he's lying is the point where I wanted to stop. I was done with Yellow. I was done with the dynamic. I was like, you know what? These two both suck. I'm out.
right, right.
Obviously I kept pushing through, but it's a really rough time for Yellow, and coming back to the Dreamlands when he's combined with John after only seeing him at some of his worst. It was really difficult because you can tell that he's quote unquote matured a little bit, or that his time with John has changed him. And now to see him like this and to have him, I mean, first of all, I think it's hilarious that Kane just went catch this and Yellow
Yeah.
couldn't just not catch it. Dude fully couldn't resist the impulse to catch the rock.
I'm telling you, they were playing hot potato, and the king was locked in. He was like, "I'm not dropping this."
And I think
Oh, Pi in the chat says he was held in place by the obelisk's vines.
yeah, but
Interesting.
he didn't have to catch it. He didn't have to like hold his hand out and catch it. He could have balled his hands into fists. Dude could have punched it. Like punch the rock away.
Still would have touched it.
Fair. That's fair. Anyway, point is, I think it's so fascinating to see people like I did not get the attachment to Yellow. I don't have the attachment to Yellow. It is public knowledge that Harlan is the I don't care for Job meme about Yellow. You don't think he really gets the fandom obsession with Yellow, but I don't think that means he's off limits as far as storytelling. And I think there is like Harlan could find something interesting to do with Yellow. So I'm not saying that because he doesn't understand it, he won't do anything with it. I'm just saying that similarly, I also am not like super into Yellow, but I do understand the what would Yellow want argument, because that is something that we were talking a lot about with Antoine.
Yes.
What would
Yeah.
Antoine want us
Right.
to do?
Right. Let him rest. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were like, let him rest. But what would Yellow want has been the argument that I've seen the most in response to kill the king, because people are, the argument that even I was using was Yellow doesn't want what he built and worked with John to create in rebuilding Carcosa ruined by his own hand out of his control. So I don't know. I think it's a very interesting question.
Hi, Autopsy, aka Trash Panda here, she, her pronouns, and fuck. My initial gut reaction was I truly don't know if I can kill him. This is the butcher all over again. That I know it's right, but every piece of my heart wants to believe that we can still get him back if we win, but I know that's delusional. I know he's a grinner and our king is gone. I'm also super stuck on how much more painful hearing John Mercy kill Lily in part 20 is going to be. Now that it's foreshadowing him having to kill Yellow in the end. Whee! And like for a minute, I was also intrigued by the angsty parallel of Yellow being turned loose on a Carcosa he just rebuilt, reduced to the rubble and carnage we first saw it in. Now just an extension of Kane's bloodshed in his grinner form. In the end, though, that feels even more hopeless than even having to kill him, because that's Yellow's death and the death of who he fought to become in the end. That's the death of everything he and John built together. And that's too much. I'll let the Wump fans write that fanfic. I have seen a lot of people talk about Yellow being the most expendable character, and that he's the only one who could really be put in this position. Queen. I love you. And yeah, you're right. Yellow's expendable nature is what is killing me. He was never supposed to exist in canon and in the very meta sense of the show itself. He's a cosmic accident, a mistake, and he just exists now and keeps getting doomed by the narrative at every turn. And even through all that, he's still trying and failing and growing and learning. And fuck me if Yellow isn't the most relatable character in this entire fucking show. We gotta kill this guy.
Thank you, AK. I know you have some more submissions, but I'm going to read the exact quote that AK is calling me out for. I'm sorry, Yellow fans, but Yellow is maybe one of the most expendable characters left in the podcast. That dude is going to die regardless. He's just John, but rolled back to seasons 1 through 3. It's a reasonable sacrifice, and I think Mercy killing him was always on the table. Obviously, I've flipped since then.
That was early week queen. That was early week queen. She's a different person.
I don't know who she is anymore.
Yeah, I don't know who she is.
But I do stand by the fact that this is kind of what I expected of Yellow's character.
Mm-hmm. I really love hearing people bring up the fact that Carcosa represents Yellow's growth through his time with John, through his experiences. And yeah, it is tragic to imagine him going on a rampage and destroying all of that. But I guess on the other hand, he wouldn't even really be aware of the tragedy of it, because if he can't be cured of being a grinner, then he's just going to be a mindless beast. And yeah, that is a fate worse than death, I think.
And I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I think Mercy kill is what the narrative requires, but after John spent so long refusing to kill Yellow, fighting not to sacrifice his being who was a part of him, to save Yellow the way Arthur saved John, to the point that he essentially allowed himself to be killed by Yellow to avoid bringing destruction on him himself, I don't know. I've long felt like the war between John and Yellow felt like parts work therapy for me, and that's totally projection. I have no idea if that's what Harlan intended this to feel like, but this hits me more like killing your inner child than it does becoming entirely your own. And it hurts. No lies, it took me a minute to not feel like this was narratively unsatisfying, but after journaling and crying a bunch, I'm realizing just how good of storytelling this actually is. Like, that's a good bad guy that can do things that actually hurt. This is no punches pulled, hitting at the core of hope and twisting the knife. We've had a lot of hope, but this is the horror part of the hope horror. And that's brave storytelling. It's good that it hurts me.
AK, you hit the nail on the head when you say it's good that it hurts me.
Yeah.
I think that is a lesson that a lot of people in the Malevolent fandom are learning, because we get some really strong reactions in the fandom, in the Discord specifically. When I say in the fandom, I want to be clear. I'm only on Discord, so yeah, I'm just talking about Discord. We get a lot of really strong reactions when the chapter drops, and not all of them are positive. And then people will come back later and go, you know what? I have some shit to do. I actually have realized that this reaction was more based on something that I have going on with me rather than what the story is doing. And yes, I've actually come to realize is really good. It's just that it pulled something out of me that I need to work on or that I didn't realize about myself. And I think that is so I've never seen another piece of media do that in real time.
Seriously. And I think that part of it is because of the format. Like, you go to therapy every week, you listen to Malevolent every week, and are faced with these challenges of identity and grief and making difficult choices. And I do think that so much of it resonates with people that they do project a certain amount onto the characters sometimes. And it's just really effective storytelling that Harlan has created these characters that are so distinct with motives that are so entirely their own, and yet it is open enough that people resonate with that and see parts of themselves in the struggles of the characters. It's incredibly effective storytelling and writing.
Truly, and I think a huge, not to diminish at all the experience of a public only listener or the work that Malevolent will do in the future when it is fully completed and people are listening as it is a whole series. I think it is truly a different experience when the story isn't over yet and you are listening week to week, because you don't have any promises. You have no reassurances. You can't flip to the back of the book to see that it ends happy. You don't get the you don't have somebody in the fandom who's already watched the whole thing to
Who
tell
can tell
you
you,
that
yeah.
it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And that is so uniquely, like, that is the life experience. I don't know that in a year I'm going to be okay. I just have to take it a day at a time and we'll see what I am in a year, you know? And that's so, I think this story is so differently experienced when it's not over yet.
Yeah. Yeah. AK Trash Panda in the chat says, the week I found this show, I was talking to my therapist about it, and she said verbatim, I think this podcast is doing my job for me. Incredible. The amount of therapists who have heard of extensive discussions about Malevolent, if I had a nickel for every time, I wouldn't be rich, but I'd have several nickels.
Hi, this is Veritaaas, she, her. For me, this vote is not just about that I obviously don't want him to die. In fact, I'm okay with the show wanting him dead. And I'm okay with the possibility that if the story does show me that this is permanent, it was a mistake to try to save him, and we have to suffer the consequences. But this is my distinction. I still want to try. I do not want to jump straight to executioner. I want to judge the situation first. For now, we do not yet know what the exact consequences are, at least in the context of Maliflor and from John and Arthur's point of view. But if we kill Yellow right now, we will never know for certain how he adjusts to this condition and what it looks like with him. If we skip over giving him a chance to actually show us, just to avoid the consequences altogether. And yes, the consequences of our choice can be severe and catastrophic, but they also can be something positive, like saving the character from death, and most importantly, not proving Kane's point. Kane is of the mindset that everything is already fucked because there's just too much suffering and doom, and we might as well skip the entire thing to go straight to the end, because he considers this a mercy. Arthur is convinced that this world and life is worth fighting for, despite the struggle and hardship. Yes, there is horror, and yes, there's pain and death and bloodshed, but there's also potential for hope and good things and to save people. And it would be a mistake to end it all, just because the ugly bits can get very ugly. I want John and Arthur to be the people who will always try to fight for life, even if it may be futile or hurt. No matter how vast the darkness, I will supply my own light. I believe any creature can be redeemed. And also because fuck you, Kane, for hurting my favorite character.
Thank you so much for your wonderful first submission, Veritaaas. I personally saw Veritaaas so active in poll chat. I mean, one of the diehard send him home debaters that was in there 9 to 5. I mean, like, and crazy.
Writing fucking paragraphs and paragraphs. Every time I poked my head into poll chat, I saw Veritaaas fighting the good fight and was so passionate in this poll, and it was great to see. So I was really hyped when they said that they were gonna send in a submission.
Yeah, I have to say, I may not agree with some of the points there, but it was really convincing for a great many people, and I'm very happy because it worked in my favor. Kind of like
Right.
one of those things you learn very quickly is, are you losing? Yes. Well, then, like, you have something to fight for. Are you winning? Yes. Then keep your mouth shut. Like, just
Right.
don't. It doesn't
Don't
matter
do-
that you don't agree.
Right,
Don't
right.
ruin it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that their arguments appeal to a lot of the yellow enjoyers, and the fact that they see the kind of hopelessness that Kane is trying to inspire and trying to say, like, it's already so fucked, like it's not even worth it, just, just kill him. And I also think that they make a really interesting point about the fact that we don't know what the King in Yellow as a Grinner would act like, what that state would be like for him, because and Kane is a different story, but Kane is Grinnerfied, but he still seems more or less himself. Now, whether that's because his personality is very much aligned with Grinnerdom, I don't know. That might be the case, but it does bring into question what the effects of being Grinnerized is on a god versus a human.
Yeah. And I want to bring up something that Kane said in the podcast to John specifically. Look, you'll be back to despising and distrusting each other in no time. It's what humanity is. It's what you're born and bred to do. Distrust and despise. You'll see. And I think that killing Yellow now is really good at that. That would very much show him that he's right. I don't know. I feel like going against Kane's perception of humanity is consistently important.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, or they them. I'm voting to kill Yellow / the King this week. It hurts. But why would we send him home? To destroy all that he had once held dear? To live on forever as a Grinner, violent, mad, unable to really make his own choices? Everything in Malevolent and outside of it tells us that there is no cure to the effects of the Blackstone. But even if there was one, who will be there to try and find a way to care enough to fight for the King? Arthur and John don't count on surviving this one, and I seriously doubt that they will. And if they're gone, who else is there? Are we hoping for him to be killed by people who maybe don't even know him, or how much he had once fought to be something different before Kane took it all away from him? No, he's dead already. Let him rest here, where the only people that actually care and know him can mourn him as he deserves. I know, this is not the most practical of reasons, and I get why people want to focus on other things right now, but still, we have failed the King before. Arthur even says so himself. So I feel like we own him this much.
Thank you, Oro, for your submission. And I truly appreciate the bleeding hearts out there for Yellow, because somebody's got to care.
Yeah, Oro, you seriously broke my heart with this submission, talking about, like, who will be left to care about Yellow if John and Arthur are gone. Oh, man. That makes me so sad.
I think it's so interesting because in my very maybe problematically logical brain, Yellow will never be Yellow again. And so I don't feel like there's any way to fail him or let him down. He's gone. Like, he's already dead.
You're saying it's more about the living. We have to just cut our losses and just, I'm sorry. And I mean, that's what Oro said. Oro said, he's already dead. But so I see how the dignity of a swift death could make sense, so that Yellow doesn't do anything that he wouldn't have wanted to do.
But I think therein lies the issue, is that I don't even see him as Yellow anymore.
Right.
He's in fact not Yellow. He is red.
Yeah.
And I think that you only could, like, you can only mess up the legacy and the history and the dignity of somebody if you are still that person or you inhabit that person. And that is not even yellow anymore. It doesn't even look like yellow anymore. Is a fully different color with a grin that didn't exist before. So I think even saying that this is some kind of a, like, scourge on his role as the king or whatever, it to me, it's just like, he's so far removed from that, you can't even say that's doing anything. That's a whole different character now.
Right. And I mean, to your point, I also do think that it's important to consider this vote from who the people who are still alive, the people who are still have most of their sanity and wits about them, and how the outcome of this vote will affect them and their mental state.
Hello, autopsies. Gogoat here. Any pronouns? Firstly, no notes. Phenomenal chapter. Loved it. I am loving the route the finale is taking. Not at all what I expected, but I am having a fantastic time. Cain has such a presence, but he's especially standing out in this chapter. Wings the size of a city and dressed to the nines. Or millions. Millions of Arthurs. That imagery is fantastic. Cannot wait to see all the art of that. So for the vote...
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
I actually want to keep Yellow alive. I didn't initially. Yes, I agree that Yellow would hate to become this, would hate to be made into something he's not. He's just learned that he's not only evil, or just been told that, at least. Reducing him down to one trait would be really horrible for him, but also... killing him also feels really bad, especially Cain doing it. Like, at least let us do it. I feel like that'd be at least a little better. I have no idea how the Blackstone works beyond anything that we've been told in Malevolent, but if all goes well, we might be able to bring him back from the brink. I don't know if that's possible, but we're at a point in this series where we are literally at a point where we're rewriting reality. Even if Cain doesn't succeed in either plan or B, the world is definitely not going to be the same after this. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a loophole to it, so you'd at least hope.
I just wanted to say I'm so happy that Gogoat included that clip, because they posted it in the autopsy channel, and I was like, you have to include that in your submission this week. Best argument for kill.
Gogoat here again, any pronouns. Continuing on my previous ramble. Keeping Yellow alive could be a backup plan. I know there's more to the vote than that, but as Cain said, if all goes wrong, John has a save point if Yellow is still alive. Leaving Yellow alive would mean that, well, both Yellow has a second chance and also the whole world, because John's still there. So even if the plan to stop Cain goes completely out the window, at least we still have someone alive who might be able to do something, even though Arthur seems to be pretty important here. But you can dare to dream. I feel like we need to just be grabbing at anything at this point, because things are not going well. Also, we still have no idea what would happen to John if we kill Yellow. They're both their own independent beings, of course, but at the end of the day, they're still wound from the same piano wire. What happens if Yellow dies? Does John also die? Does the energy go to John? Is this line of thinking even relevant to the vote? After writing and recording this, I still am so completely unsure of what I'm on about, and very unsure about the vote, especially since it's a Cain-relevant one and votes for him just never as simple as they seem. Okay, bye-bye, autopsiers.
Thank you, Gogoat. I loved it. I so consistently can't tell what people are voting unless they explicitly say what they're voting.
Seriously, it's just one of those votes. And oh man, Gogoat wound from the same piano wire. Beautifully put. And you reminded me that was one of the thoughts that I had early on was, what if killing Yellow allows all of the King in Yellow energy to be concentrated in John and to power him up for the final fight. And I'm so curious if there will be some kind of exchange like that, kind of regardless of how we vote. But that was one of the reasons I was still voting for kill, is I thought that it might concentrate the power on John.
Yeah, I definitely liked that idea when it was first posited. The idea that making John definitively the only, like, King in Yellow, the sort of single entity, maybe it would concentrate all of that power, like going Super Saiyan. Yeah, but I liked that idea that maybe if we just murk Yellow right here, John would get superpowers or something. But I don't think so.
But also, Gogoat, I'm holding your hand. I'm holding your hand gently. I don't think that saving Yellow is gonna provide a backup plan. Maybe, but I don't know.
I will say this,
It's
for every
optimistic.
malevolent theory, it's never a 0% chance.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
never 0.
Snake, she, her, and he, him. Yellow is no more. If I know anything from this chapter, that is it. The yellow of his cloak is now blood-soaked, and this kind of stain is not something that can be undone. A grin cannot be carved off from a face that does not have one. If it could be, Cain would have saved himself from it already. And at the end of the day, it is Arthur and John's goal to save the world and preserve it as it is, not change the reality of living in Azathoth's dream. And the only way I can see to save the King in Red is to do exactly that. Change reality. Change the nature of Azathoth and the nature of the Blackstone. Yellow has been antagonist and friend again and again in turn. It hurts me to think he ends here after everything. But regardless of what we choose, he's gone. He's not yellow, he's red. And that's why I think it's kinder to both Yellow and John to kill him. Don't let this phantom of their worst selves haunt them in the dreamlands.
Thank you so much, Snake, for your submission. I really appreciate it. I also want to say that I love the it's kinder to put him out of his misery angle. That is kind of where I was at very much with kill him.
The old yeller.
I want to point out something that I don't think a lot of people have mentioned, even in poll chat. Cain is very clearly, if not in control of the King in Red, not an enemy directly, in that Cain can talk to him and be like, how are you feeling? And the King in Yellow doesn't attack him or whatever. And so I think it's very interesting that Cain would even offer to take out one of his, like, tools. I don't know that he will actually kill Yellow. I think he would much rather keep that for future use if he can't complete his ritual or whatever, if he can't do what he wants to do. He would always have Yellow, the King in Red, somewhere tucked away to hurt John and Arthur later.
So you're saying that what Cain really wants in this game of 40 chess is for Arthur and John to choose to send him back to the Dreamlands.
No, I think, so here's the interesting thing. If you look at this from Cain's perspective, John, let's just say Arthur chooses to kill the king right here and now. That's painful for John. And it's also a commentary, I think, on, like, Arthur's callousness and humanity and blah, blah, blah. But it hurts John, and then Cain can send him to the Dreamlands anyway and not kill him. Okay, so he gets what he wants. Whereas he has a backup tool to hurt them later, and he's proven that Arthur's willing to kill the King in Red and, you know, in front of John in that very callous way. Arthur votes to send him to the Dreamlands, and Cain gets what he wants still, because he gets to keep his tool for later. But Arthur doesn't show John that he's willing to do that. And Cain gets to taunt him for his inability to do what needs to be done. Or Cain does take out one of his soldiers, thinking that it's extra painful for Jon and Arthur to have their decision disregarded. So I think in choosing to send him back, we open the possibility that he could be killed on sight or he could be sent back to the Dreamlands, versus if we choose to kill him, I do think that it narrows the possibilities a little bit.
And also reflects poorly on Arthur and probably drives more of that friction between him and Jon, and also affects Jon's mental state regardless whether or not Cain actually goes through with it.
That, and the fact that, like, we know that Grinners kind of keep their intelligence, they keep their personality. They're not like zombies, okay? They are meant to be creatures that take the most violent impulses that you personally have and amplify them and bring them to the forefront, and they become the most important thing to you is to seek out blood for the obelisk. And as a result of that, what do you think it's gonna do to the King in Red to hear Arthur be like, yeah, shoot his ass? Like, and then Cain sends him back to the Dreamlands, doesn't kill him, and we have the King in Red like, that motherfucker really thought he could just shoot me.
Right.
So, I mean, is it a good look for Arthur to say, yeah, kill him? I don't know. I don't think it is.
Pi also keeps reiterating in the chat that Nyarlathotep can literally mind control Grinners. They're normally complex, but they can straight up have their will overtaken by Nyarlathotep specifically.
Yes, and I only didn't bring that up because that is Call of Cthulhu lore, but yes, true. It is. Yeah. That is something that is provided as context in the games, which there is evidence that those things are canon, but we haven't been told them in Malevolent, so I can respect the fact that some people may not want to. They may say Harlan could have changed his mind about that lore and now it doesn't apply or whatever.
Right.
But
no,
I mean,
that's a
really,
good distinction. That's a good distinction.
I mean, really, Grinner lore doesn't fully matter here if you're thinking about it from the context of who's asking and what do they want, versus and what is that decision going to look like once it's made.
Yes.
Ha Autopsy, Resident She-Her, and Chapter 298. Whatever you do, don't think about a little Faro chasing after Arthur. It will cause psychological damage. But you know what also will? All the absolute fuckery happening right now in Arkham. Hello, ominous chanting and grating string sounds. I've missed you. So, I've listened to both of the Call of Cthulhu campaigns. I'm no lore master by any means, but I recognize some of these references that were given. Call of Cthulhu 1 with the sky, the obelisk from Call of Cthulhu 2. It's been too long since we've had a jonologue, and the descriptions we were given were absolutely captivating. And then the dread sets in, because why wouldn't it? You know, the Arthurstra's gone, Cain's offering to kill the King in Red after making him what he is. So we have a conundrum, which has been plaguing the pole mines, and I'll be honest, my first instinct was mercy kill. I distinctly remember my first Call of Cthulhu 2 listen, and hearing what havoc the Grinners caused and how there's no saving them, my immediately thought of the King in Red was returning to Carcosa doing goodness knows what before everything ends, and it made me want to vote kill, because why doom Carcosa? Why doom the city that had been in the process of being rebuilt? The Dreamlands that were recovering from losing their ruler? But the pole mines have had some convincing arguments, and I've flipped. Because what is satisfying in killing the king like this? What will telling Cain to kill him here and now really do? I think that sending him away will do more for this than killing him here, although what this is, I can't exactly say since we've got 2 more chapters to go, and I can't stress enough how impressed I am with how things are being wrapped up. Every little detail, the little tidbits we're getting, every single chapter leading up to the end has had me reeling, if I'm being honest. Harlan has done such a good job of tying up these little details in knots and bows, and now we've only got 2 left.
Thank you, Rose. Oh, it's so good to hear from you again, and I love that you flipped. Thank you.
Yes. But also, I was surprised at your Call of Cthulhu knowledge, the campaign knowledge. I wasn't expecting to get the Call of Cthulhu references and lore from your submission, Rose. So thank you so much for sharing that there was, some of the imagery even was the same. That's very, very interesting.
Hey, AK Trash Panda again. So, disregard my paragraphs, vote bug. Liz fucking got me. Queen fucking got me. Son of a fuck, we gotta vote to send him back. This vote isn't about the actual vote. Of course it's not. This is a choice, and you can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes, given to us by Cain. You know how many times he's not honored the choice of the vote when he's in control? It's never about the vote for him. It's always about what he expects to happen. Votes that align with his wishes get honored, and votes that go against what he wants get ignored or worse. In Season 5, we had 258, Do It Yourself or Don't Do It Yourself, where we voted against Cain's wishes for Cain to get the stone out of Antoine himself, and in 259, Cain or Lilith, we voted to give the stone to Lilith against Cain's wishes, and we all remember how both of those turned out. In Season 6, we did vote to let go and then to hold on, and Cain quote-unquote honored them because he won his bet to get 2 answers out of the same question. Bonus points for non-vote instances of him going back on an offer, like when he said he'd wipe Arthur's memory in Intermezzo, and when he lied about who he was putting back in Arthur's head in Coda. And now we're here at 298. Mercy kill or send the king home. And the only thing I think that matters is number 1, what does Cain want us to vote for? And number 2, what do we actually want him to do? Yellow's already dead. And we're playing 6D chess with an insane god. Cain doesn't want us to vote right. He wants to cause torment. He wants John and Arthur to suffer. He's going to do the opposite of whatever it is they want just to cause as much pain as he can. He's trying to drive a wedge between them. He even brought up Arthur saying, I never should have opened that damn book in the last part. He took them to England and pointed out the exact spot and then reenacted the scene to make sure John remembered. If we vote to kill the king quickly, Cain is going to send him back home. It causes the most damage, he keeps the king a corrupt and destructive force he can unleash on the Dreamlands, an absolute win for Cain, and confirms all of John's greatest fears about how Arthur sees him and the king. But if we vote to send him home, Cain will likely murk him here and now just to spite them, which arguably gives them the best outcome. John gets to hear Arthur value what is left of his other half, and the king doesn't get unleashed on the kingdom he and John just spent their last moments together rebuilding. This is the way to preserve their legacy. The king as he wanted himself to be. This vote is layered and complex and really shows the depth of the relationship John and Arthur have carved out over the last 6 seasons. This is about them trusting each other and understanding the game Cain is playing. We can play that game too.
Thank you, AK.
AK has seen the light.
So it's funny because I flipped and then I was working really hard to flip people, and AK came into the poll chat and was like, Queen, I just finished writing my submission for Kill Him, and now you have me questioning it. And I'm like, submit both. I love that. That's great.
Yes.
It's a great representation of how it truly goes in the poll minds.
Yeah, and I wanted to break up their messages a little bit so that we could hear some of the arguments from both sides and other people and talk about it, and then have one of our flip submissions right there towards the end.
Yeah, and I think whenever you have Cain involved in a vote, I've always said this, when Cain's in the chapter, it's about Cain. You don't really get to think about anybody else. He steals the narrative very literally. I mean, he becomes the entity that is giving us our choice at the end. By the way, John was very obviously our booth entity for the opening of this chapter. I did not even get to mention that.
Yeah.
Fully opens the chapter in his own voice, not a depressed Booth John voice, not even like filtered. It is just John in narrative responding to the choice, and then the tape recorder click that is signature in the choice, the Booth John breaking up. I thought it was lovely. But by the end of the chapter, we have Cain back screaming in our ears about the choice.
Yep. Oh man, Cain coming screaming into introducing the chapters when he's been the quote unquote booth entity for his chapters. It shreds my eardrums every fucking time. God damn it.
He's perfect and beautiful and love him. No, but thank you, AK, for the submissions. I know that it was tough in there, and I'm proud of you for keeping your brain open and flipping, especially because you flipped on my side.
Yeah.
Hi, hello there, Autumn here. I know I probably should be focusing on the whole King in Red thing, but holy fuck, Cain's off wings. Mr. Harlan Guthrie, you shall be hearing from my lawyers on breach of privacy, because how the fuck do you know I am obsessed with wings in general? Like, I didn't think he could get any more enthralling, but here we are, and I'm happy to be proved wrong. Okay, back to the devastating news, though. The bloody king. Oh my god, Yellow, you can't catch a break. Oh, he was chill for 5 minutes and now look what's happened. I personally think we should let him go home. I mean, you'd prefer your dog to die in a familiar place, would you not? And continuing on with the animal metaphors, if we don't observe him, he's both dead and alive simultaneously. Schrodinger's king. I've heard a lot of people are worried about the Dreamlands themselves, and I know this may seem callous as fuck, but it's like his house, his rules. He can trash it if he wants, and quite frankly, I don't really care much, because pretty much 90% of the shit there has tried to brutally murder us, so we're just returning the favour. Sorry to the 1%, but hey, on the bright side, the trader will never have to worry about us following him again, eh? I also feel like killing Yellow here and now in an unfamiliar place while his other half watches on is like losing hope, because sugaring is maybe irreversible, but we don't know if the obelisk will be around by the end of this. Not to mention the mental toll it will have on John. And also the physical as well, if he feels himself literally die. And Yellow's, even if he is his own person, Yellow is still quite literally half of him. If anything convinces you to keep Yellow alive for at least a little bit, it should be to delay John's agony for a time less rife with mortal peril, thank you very much. Anyway, that's all from me. Have a good autopsy.
Thank you, Autumn. This is one of those submissions where it's like, you're voting for what I'm voting for, so I just gotta let you talk.
Dude, this submission cracked me the fuck up, Autumn. Your arguments for Schrodinger's king and the Dreamlands being his house, his rules, he can trash it if he wants to.
I don't really give a shit about most of the beings in the Dreamlands. They all tried to kill us. We're just repaying the favor. Fucking Autumn.
Hilarious.
Oh man, thank you so much for your submission. Yeah, I think you bring up an interesting point about the relationship between John and Arthur, because I did see some people pushing back against the idea that John would care or that he wouldn't understand why Arthur's making the decision. And I want to point out that Malevolent is so good at showing a real depiction of people and their feelings and relationships to those feelings and relationships with each other, because I don't care how long we've been friends. Sometimes things you do will hurt me, and there is not really anything you can do about that. And it's just because I know that you love me doesn't mean what you do can't hurt me anymore. And I think that there's a difference between questioning John and Arthur's relationship and their trust and their love for each other.
Right.
And expecting John to just have no feelings about watching Arthur say, Larson, kill this man. Like, I agree, because one of the lines in this chapter specifically, your stick was no matter the cost. And that was part of what I was thinking, was that this is a no matter the cost moment. Yeah. But I do completely agree with you that even though they both have that resolve, and even though they both know that this may be a sacrifice that has to be made, a difficult choice that has to be made, that doesn't mean that John will be able to face it without any fear, anguish, grief, pain, all of those things. And so, you kind of have to balance, like, at any cost, but also how do I protect myself to be strong enough to make it to the very end? Yeah, and it's so interesting that we want to believe so strongly in John and Arthur's relationship in a way that stories traditionally show us. A character makes a mistake, fixes it or learns a lesson from it, and then moves on and never encounters that again because it's been learned already and they've got it.
It's been checked off the list.
Right, but that's not how anything works. You can still continue to make the same mistake even when you're trying not to. And you can still, there is nothing stopping John from feeling things just because of how far they've come as friends. And I think especially in this moment, so vulnerable and scared. And this is the first time we've heard John say, you wouldn't be able to handle looking at this, and close your eyes. And we're hearing him so shaken up that I think it's a little bit, it's hard for me to imagine that he could withstand this. I think he's strong. I think this wouldn't be a divorce or crumble their relationship, but I think this is a really shit time for a moment of weakness.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, I completely agree.
Pi she her. I want the king dead. There is nothing good that will come from him continuing to exist. Nothing that cannot continue to exist within John. This is Cain's demonstration of the Blackstone. 37 parts, 3 intermissions, building up to this. The power without comparison and its uncontrollable madness. The king died the minute he was handed that stone. He needs to go. It is the logical choice. It is the ethical choice. But Cain doesn't give a shit about any of that. Is he really willing to cut his demonstration short? We heard the glee in his voice as he went, yes, yes, during the king's transformation. Dignity, history, lineage, kingship. He's baiting them. He's not willing to let go of his new toy. Because he's not willing to let go of anything. He has everything he needs to end the world, and he hasn't because he can't help himself. He can't stop himself from caring. He has to give Artie one more choice. And it's what Arthur says that's gonna matter. The king is not the perfect example because he exemplifies the stone's totality. They can see the grin marring Cain's face. It's not to balance out the save points. Arthur has one which Cain has handily ignored. He doesn't need a puppet. Grimmers are drones, but Cain is beyond that. It's because the king is who John can't let go of. I do not like when we assume that John is weak. He is anything but. But he is bearing the weight of the obelisk and fighting for the same spiritual space as a being that has been poisoned. John is not lucid. Whatever choice is made is going to hurt, and the obelisk leeches into any crack in sanity. But there is nothing that can allow me to say what comes out of Arthur should be his blessing to doom the Dreamlands. What both halves of the king learned to rebuild. Except the will which says to them, hold on.
Thank you, Pi, for the flex.
A masterful submission. But this is actually the one where I was like, wait, but how are you voting?
Yeah. Fully, I don't know how Pi's voting. Could not tell you.
It was a beautiful submission though, and I love all of the tragedy and the heartbreak that you bring up.
I'm assuming that sent him back.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, especially in line with the idea of John's sanity.
Yes. But it started out with Pi saying that they wanted to kill the king, and so by the time I got to the end, I was so my brain was feeling so smooth with Pi's amazing delivery of all of these thoughts and ideas that I was like, wait, what?
I do also want to back the sentiment. I was the first in line to be mad because people were trying to say that John couldn't handle watching Arthur condemn the king. I was like, right. John's so much stronger than that. Don't make John out to be this weak little baby who can't handle his britches. But like, it's not really about John being strong enough. It's about the environment around him being able to exploit any potential tiny weakness. Yeah. And that's where he is right now. He's under the most amount of pressure.
This is his holding his drowning daughter moment.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Can we call the king in red his drowning daughter? Is that what
I'm not gonna start that trend. That's on you, queen.
the Pharaoh in red or some shit.
Oh my god.
This vote is about Yellow, but I want to talk about John. This is his other half, not a brother or a twin, but a single soul split in two. John is currently watching a part of himself corrupt before his very eyes, reverting back into a destructive, wrathful, hungry husk of what he once was, or could have been. Doesn't this sound familiar? John says to the witch that the dark world feeds those with a vicious mind, and that he ate well. Yellow has become John's own backwards growth. The madness of the obelisk and the blind rage of the dark world are complements, mirrors, just like John and Yellow themselves.
So what would John want? John wants to believe that any creature may be redeemed, no matter how far gone. Alongside Arthur, he begs Cain, of all people, to see reason, to go back on his wager. Maybe it was false hope, misplaced and desperate, but John is a hopeful being. His entire journey is about hope. John has never taken death as it comes. He attempts to revive Antoine when he falls. He fights to save Arthur in the boat and in the mines. He changes his mind after attempting to kill Oscar. And when they find Lily, bleeding out, a hole in her stomach, he fights to save her until the end. John is a staunch proponent of life. If only to save John a sliver of heartache, of watching his darker side made manifest be executed, I want to send Yellow away. Collateral damage to the Dreamlands won't matter if everything ends. And Cain has never shown mercy. It is always just delayed cruelty.
Thank you so much for your submission, Hydrus. I never agree with Hydrus. Like, never.
They are mortal enemies in the poll
Polar
lines.
opposite voters. We literally have completely different approaches to voting, different approaches to debate. Just the most different you could possibly be. And when I realized we were on the same side, I was like, oh no, something's wrong. This is a bad omen.
Has gone wrong. Something has shifted in the universe.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then once I announced that I had flipped for sure in the poll chat and started to genuinely debate with people, Hydrus is like, I think I'm flipping back to kill.
Right. This is wrong. This can't be right.
You can't just do that because of me. That would be silly. You don't give your vote to me. No, but Hydrus is one of the most eloquent, incredible, well-spoken people in poll chat. If you ever get to debate Hydrus, watch the fuck out.
Yeah. I saved Hydrus's message for the end because they reminded me of the very important fact that collateral damage in the Dreamlands won't matter if everything ends. So trying to consider the collateral damage in the Dreamlands is that's not important right now. That is not important right now. You can think about that, but literally the least important thing in this moment.
Yeah, I agree. And I have been like that since the beginning of season 6, where everyone's like, what about this person? And what about that person? I'm like, guys, none of that shit matters if the world's ending. And so, broaden the scope a little bit, zoom out, and realize that there are going to be things that we sacrifice because nothing matters if the world ends. So I agree. The collateral of the Dreamlands is a very sweet sentiment, but it is also so deeply inconsequential when you compare it to the fact that
absolutely.
The Dreamlands is going to be wiped the fuck out anyway if we don't save the world. So shrug emoji.
Yeah, no matter the cost. But it's so interesting how you can look at the idea of no matter the cost from both angles of this vote, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Hydrus in the chat made a joke about holding Noel up, and I think that for posterity, I have to mention, I think a lot of us were certain that Cain was about to pull out Noel instead of the King in Yellow and torture him.
I will say I was never worried about that. Funny enough, I did not even think he would come up in this chapter, and I was correct, and I'm very pleased.
That's crazy to me. The moment Cain was like, let me demonstrate, I was like, oh fuck, oh shit, oh no. It was kind of a relief. Honestly, it was kind of a relief that it was the King in Yellow, because it wasn't Noel. I'm terrible, I know.
I was surprised that he wanted to do anything before he did his Grand Master plan.
Right.
I was shocked that he's still fucking stalling.
I
Dude,
know.
Really, I don't think he's as sure as he thinks he is. He is stalling.
Yeah.
There's always a one more thing. Let me show you this thing. Let me go here. Let me show you that. I just want to drop you off the beach.
Right.
Bro, end the world if you're going to end the world. Man the fuck up.
Oh, that's so funny. But yeah, you're so right. Like, why is he the one dragging this out when it should be like, Arthur and John keep trying to like stop him in different ways and he has to respond to that. But no, he's guiding the narrative and even he is just like fucking around.
You know what? Hydrus points out in the chat, he would have killed him anyways, but then why isn't he deploying Null? He's waiting to draw out the manager. And I think that might be the closest thing I've seen to a reason why Kane is stalling. Yeah,
True,
you're fully
true.
right. I think he's just hoping the manager shows up.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't even quote me on that. Oh man. Okay. Well, what a 2-hour autopsy this has been. Probably expect the same next week.
Yeah. Thank you guys who stuck around for the whole time or who joined us late or even the people who only stuck around for a little bit. That's totally understandable. 2 hours of me and Queen yapping is a lot.
Yeah. I feel really bad for the 2 people who edit the show. Guys, in like less than 2 days, we're going to have our answers to questions and probably more questions.
So many questions.
And then the final vote.
Oh. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And I'm so happy that it feels like, and I've said this before, but it feels like everybody is getting so fucking hype about the finale and not scared and sad that Malevolent Series 1 is gonna be ending. And I'm so happy to share in that celebratory, victorious feeling with everybody.
These are the good times, everybody. Make them memorable. Do cool things. Have fun. And to the public, I hope you liked the episode. We're waiting to figure it out.
Yeah. Tell us how you liked the finale. We have no idea what's coming.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, of course, to Harlan Guthrie, the sole creator of Malevolent. Without his labor of love for a story he wants to tell, we wouldn't be here. To join the live recording, submit your own message, get in touch with me, and more, visit Linktree/Malevolent Autopsy. The official Invictus Discord server is open to the public and includes a channel just for Malevolent Autopsy fans. We also have our own private, patrons-only channel. Finally, thank you to Mizra, Nikki, Vol Control, and everyone who has helped create and maintain Malevolent Autopsy. These friends are also volunteers who donate time and energy to help put together this love letter to Malevolent. Remember, in the end, it's never about certainty. It's about making a choice and moving forward. Until next time, the horrors persist.
But so do we.
We warn you, this show contains major spoilers for everything in Malevolent. Bleh. Okay.
Everything in Phenomena, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's start from the top. Let's start that again.